I mean, very talented football team from the front three, you know, and those guys that play in the box and into the secondary. And I think the thing that's been interesting as we've watched them the last couple of weeks is you've seen a lot of different guys playing different spots, different roles, different guys within the rotations. And I'm not sure what the injury status and situation of guys are, but it shows that they do have depth, they do have talent across the board. And so I think our big challenge is just really trying to figure out exactly what they want to be, where they want those guys to be, and then, you know, what some of the strengths and weaknesses are of those guys when they do line up. Offensively, you know, for us, and I think there's no more important position than the quarterback position to make sure that that guy feels comfortable. That's always a talking point in our staff meetings is, you know, is this something, it may be a play that we love, but if it's not a play that he loves or that he has shown, you know, through reps and practice that that's a play that he handles really well, then typically we just can it. So you try to find some things that we're doing right now would be different than maybe what we would do if Kyle was in the game. There's a lot of overlap, but you see us run the ball a little bit with Brock in the game. Certainly some things to play to his strength and just his ability to be a playmaker and, you know, some of the movement passes and those things. But I think ultimately the fun thing with Brock is he can handle a lot of different things. He can do a little bit of everything, which just opens up the playbook a little bit, but we still also got to make sure it's not overwhelming for him either. One positive of that situation is we've been here before, you know, gonna enter the game without David as the starter, but those guys, I know Coach Shieldhouse feels a tremendous amount of confidence in all three of those guys. Well, really, you know, with Kane, with Johnny, with Sheldon, and with Mike, you know, those four. So I think it'll be a little bit of kind of what you were talking about with the quarterbacks, playing to some of their strengths. Some of those guys do some things really well, so there may be some calls that fit them, and then, you know, kind of just finding the flow of, you know, in certain situations, who's the guy that, you know, got maybe the hot hand or that's kind of feeling the game a little bit and may kind of roll with those guys a little bit. So I know between Coach Campbell, Coach Shieldhouse, the offensive staff, we'll kind of get a good feel once things kick off. But those guys are all having a great week of practice, and David is too. I mean, that's the one positive is we do know we will get David, and so we got to make sure he's ready, and we got a plan for him too. Well, now going into, you know, game 10, we've kind of got a feel for what we do really well up front, what those guys are comfortable with. We've seen a variety of different fronts and defenses, and you know, those guys I think have a really good identity right now. They've played together. We haven't had a whole lot of rotation in there, which we did early in the season. So with some of that continuity, I think that helps. Obviously Brock now going into, what is it, game 6, playing back there, you know, so you've got a comfort level with him. I mean, you go back to that Oklahoma State game, it was Brock for the first time out there, plus, you know, kind of a new stable of running backs getting the workload. So I think going into this one, you know, really everything around that running back room is going to be kind of what you've been seeing the last couple of weeks. So I think that helps. It's really funny. I mean, you ask Brock, hey, how do you feel about these plays, or what plays do you like? Coach, whatever plays you call, I'm ready for. So, I mean, that's just his deal. It is. I've never been around a quarterback at his age that's done that. And I think, obviously, Kyle has been a tremendous help for him. You know, times where we're not around Brock or we're not watching film with Brock, those two guys, you know, are really talking through the game plan and looks and just some checks and those things. So, I mean, having Kyle, you know, there to help support that is huge for us. But yeah, I mean, he's really impressed. You know, still things that he's got to grow and get better at. Although he's had a lot of success, certainly some things that can be coached through and some things that can help him elevate his game. But yeah, for what he's done in this span of time, you know, we just got to continue to push him to finish that way. I mean, I've gotten a chance to see Mike on both ends of it. When we first got here, he was kind of the guy, and now the one thing that you can say is the way he's practiced hasn't changed. And I think that says and speaks a lot to the younger guys, other guys that are, you know, that maybe feel like they should be getting a role, or they should be getting touches, or they should be getting things. Mike just keeps working, and I think that teaches a lot of those guys, like, hey, you know, whether you're getting that opportunity right now or whether that's coming down the road, if if you change your process, if you give up on your opportunity to go out there and be the best you can be and showcase what you can do, then you ultimately put yourself at a disadvantage in terms of getting an opportunity to get on the field. And Mike's done a great job. I know there's some things he's done in special teams to add value. Certainly in the meeting rooms, I know that group is as close of a unit as they come when you talk about that running back room. So one of the first guys when guys come off the sideline, you know, he's got a great energy and spirit to him. So can't say enough about Mike and just the teammate he is. I think the one thing that you can say is they've handled it tremendously well, better than you could ever imagine. And you even go back to Joel Lanning a year ago, and I don't know, maybe it's the Kool-Aid Coach Campbell's pouring into their Gatorade bottles or what, but I mean, it's really incredible that when you talk about guys that have been humbled, but yet haven't given up and really have given more, despite the fact that that's happened, and been great leaders, great teammates, and found other ways to contribute. So, I mean, I can't thank those guys enough and say enough about, you know, all those guys that have lost that. But I think it also says that we've done a great job of recruiting, we've done a great job of developing, and no job is safe. And at the end of the day, our job is to continue to push what's in front. And I think when you've got, you know, the saying iron sharpens iron, when you've got a room full of guys that can all compete to be 1A, that's when you can put yourself and your team in a position to go out there and do big things and to win big games and to have success. And I think that's what we're starting to see. There's not just that top layer, there's that layer below that and below that and below that. And I think that's what's exciting for us as a program. And we're just fortunate that those guys have bought in and haven't given up, despite the fact that maybe some guys have passed them up. You always want to reward guys, and at the end of the day, I think the one thing we always try to ask ourselves is can this guy help us win the football game? Does this guy deserve an opportunity to help us win the football game, and what ways can we utilize him and play to his strengths? And I think that's, you know, certainly something Coach Shieldhouse has done with Mike. He feels confident, he trusts Mike, and so he's gotten some opportunities to go out there and do that. Especially this time of the year, you know, again, depth plays such a major role. Those guys, a lot of those guys are helping us on special teams too, so it takes a little bit of the workload off of those starters, but anytime you can, you know, Akeem started the year playing a lot of snaps, and now, you know, we're getting Josh in there 15 snaps a game, and it takes some of that grind off of him. And as we're going down this final stretch, you know, we're going to need Akeem to have fresh legs at times, and it's hard to get that. So having guys like that, you know, Landon's role has increased, and Tariq's role has increased, and I think all that has certainly allowed Deshante to be a better player. It's allowed Akeem to be a better player, and the great thing is that room, you know, those guys are all in it for each other. So, you know, Akeem was just as excited for Josh's first catch as Josh was, even though if he was in the game, it would have been another one for him. So I think that's the thing that's really fun when you got a group that's really selfless like that. And then you hope that's the way your program goes, and it is. Deshante obviously came in a couple years ago, played right off the bat, and having Trevor, you know, as kind of that sounding board and that guy to help him kind of calm his nerves at times and help him see things at times, and now, you know, him being able to pay it forward and give it back and you know, help Tariq out, and those guys feed off of each other really well. And again, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, you know, Tariq has, you know, all the production and you know, everybody's talking about him. And then last week, you know, Deshante's out there getting the production. And again, those guys, you know, it just happens to happen based on how the calls are flowing within the game, but their rotation isn't changing. So either of those guys can go out there and be involved in any of those play calls. So just kind of happened by circumstance, but you know, those guys have definitely helped each other out, made each other better. And again, I think because their reps are balanced, we're constantly playing a fresh guy at all times, and if teams aren't doing that defensively, it does give you an edge as the game goes on because you're not as worn out.